And welcome back. At the top of the hour, 11 o'clock hour here in the East, NBC News can project that Kamala Harris will win in the state of California. 54 electoral votes in the state of Idaho. NBC News projects Donald Trump will win and take those 4 electoral votes in Idaho. Here's a map where it moves in the road to 270. Donald Trump with 214. Harris now with 145. So things certainly becoming a little more interesting as the evening progresses.
Okay, for the 11 o'clock poll closings, we have a couple of uncalled races, Oregon and Wisconsin. We just called California. Now let's go to our battlegrounds. Pennsylvania, too close to call, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in the West. Same story in Michigan, too close to call at this hour, with about a third of the vote counted there. In Wisconsin, it is too close to call. You knew it would be a tight election. The polls all showed it, and that's certainly being borne out tonight. 60% of the vote in there. In Georgia, it is too close to call. Getting closer to that final number there, but we're still, the margins are just too close to make a call in that presidential race. Same thing in North Carolina. In fact, it's too early to call. We're still awaiting vote there. In Arizona, let's go out west. We've got 2 battlegrounds out west. We've got Arizona and Nevada. Polls closed there about a couple of hours ago. Well, 2 hours for Arizona, last hour for Nevada. Both of these too early to call. And Tom Llamas over at the board. And we talk about Arizona. We haven't given its due tonight in Maricopa County. And don't forget, the great county of Pima County, home to Tucson, Arizona.
And give some credit to Arizona. Already 50% of the vote is in. I mean, they're doing their job there, so congrats to them. Maricopa County, this is the big swing county that we're going to be watching here. This is going to be about 60% of the vote in the state of Arizona. So important. If you want to win Arizona, you got to win Maricopa. You can see Trump won it in 2016. Biden won it in 2020. Tonight, with 50% in, Kamala Harris is on top right now. Phoenix, one of the 5th largest city in the country, one of the fastest growing areas in the country. Something else interesting about Maricopa, it's not so much people from other states moving there for the jobs. It's people from all over Arizona moving to this area. You have Mesa, Tempe, Scottsdale, a lot of growth there. We're going to go to this other county here, Pima County. Savannah, you've heard of this county? Maybe, maybe not. 50% of it is in. This is Tucson. This is a Democratic stronghold. But it's not like Cambridge, Massachusetts, right? It's not 60-40 split. It sometimes is, but not really. Tonight, she's doing well. She's turning out the vote there, about 30% Hispanic in Pima County as well. It's on the border. Just next door to Pima is Yuma. Now, this is majority Hispanic, an interesting county, but this is a place where Republicans can run up the score. Trump overperforming right now. Only 35% of the vote is in. Arizona, still very, very early, 11 electoral votes. As we get information, we'll sort of dissect it and figure it out, but it's going to be a while before we call Arizona, Savannah, as you know.
All right. Thank you, Tom. We got our panel here. We got Chuck. We got Savannah Sellers over here. Chuck, what are you making of what we're seeing, what the trend lines are?
There's a reason why there's anxiety in the Harris camp and growing enthusiasm and optimism. I mean, all the trend lines, this looks a lot more like 2016 to me than it does 2020. And you're seeing whether it's rural turnout surging up, but we've had to up our projection of total turnout in Georgia than what we saw. And as we've been saying, and we'd seen this, higher turnout was always going to be better for Trump. Not, you know, there's always been this pre-Trump era conventional wisdom used to be Democrats would perform better. But he has the sort of the occasional voter. And it looks like, and we're actually even seeing evidence of what I call these shotgun Trump voters. They come in, they vote Trump, and they leave. Because there's about 100,000 vote gap. I mean, the Democratic Senate candidates in the blue wall are all in better shape right now than Harris.
And did Republicans crack the code of early voting and finally glomming onto that, even though Donald Trump is sending a separate message?
Well, one might argue now, if you look at the 3 Trump elections, 1, he obsessively made sure people didn't vote early. 2, he didn't. 1 was at 16, and then it's this one. So you may be onto something, but I do think the bigger story is their ability to expand the electorate. He used to have a ceiling of about 47, 48. That's not the case tonight. He expanded it another point or 2. That's significant. As we know, in a razor-thin environment, even if you're just adding 50,000 to your voter rolls, well, that's the difference between winning and losing. Half the blue wall. I heard your Dallas Cowboys thing. You know, I mean, there you go, right?
I mean, do it again?
Yeah, I mean,
it also works for Lambeau Field. That the last 4, literally, the election.
A better stadium to pick. You don't want to have a losing team.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Losing record.
Here we go. No, just that our elections, our last election was decided by 80,000 voters in 4 states that would fill.
But can we also remember one other thing here? Because this is, she was trying to do something as a sitting vice president that had never been done before. succeed an unpopular president. Okay? Hubert Humphrey tried to do this, and he came 1 percentage point short. It was a very close election. The electoral vote wasn't close, but it was a very close election. But he came up short. Al Gore tried to do this. While Bill Clinton's presidency was popular, Bill Clinton, the individual, was not. We all know he came up 537 votes short, as Lester will tell you over and over again. So the last sitting vice president to win was George H.W. Bush, with an outgoing president that had a 60-plus approval rating. He was at 41%. I mean, that is, you are asking somebody to overperform in a way that we may find out was politically impossible.
This sounds a little bit like a postmortem, so I want to make sure we
No, and I don't think we're there.
We have not called.
And let me give you the view
any
from the
of these
Harris
races.
campaign.
And by the way, they know if they win, it's going to be like this. Like, their path is razor thin.
That's exactly what they're
Right.
saying. There's this new memo that is out now from the chair of the Harris campaign that was sent to staffers, obtained by our Monica Alba and our team that covers the Harris camp. And this is exactly the point, right? Which is why I wanted to jump in here on this. They say that the closeness of this race is what we prepared for all along. They still see data trickling in from Sunbelt, but all along they knew it was going to be blue wall. I mean, listen, to a degree, of course, this is what they're going to say, but they say they think they're still feeling good about Pennsylvania, overperforming turnout in Philadelphia and some of these areas. In Michigan, they say there's still a lot of vote to come in. In Wisconsin, there's still a lot of vote remaining. Jen O'Malley Dillon says in this memo, we've been saying for weeks this race may not be called tonight.
I'm going to interrupt here because we do have
Lester.
an NBC News projection in the state of Oregon. NBC News projects that Kamala Harris will win in Oregon when the votes are counted. Here's where there's the breakdown right now. 220,000 vote difference, 45% of the vote in. But again, Kamala Harris, the projected winner there. In our road to 270, you see it there on the screen, 214 for Donald Trump, Harris with 153. The big prizes, still no calls. We continue to wait.
Interesting that memo is focusing on the blue wall. That's all but saying they're not expecting a North Carolina victory or a Georgia or...
Those are two states. I'm just looking at this on my computer. I don't see either of those two states mentioned here. They do talk about Nevada and Arizona. It's going to be a bit, but the bottom line is they feel like this race is not going to come into focus until the early morning hours.
The fascinating thing about what Hallie just read, Chuck says this feels like 2016. That's almost verbatim a memo that we got in 2016 saying we're focused on the blue wall. Everyone's focused on the blue wall. No one panic. And we have a lot more vote to count. So I want to be very cautious in saying this. But tonally, it is fascinating that is the message that they're sending.
Well, not for nothing. They did their last rally, Kamala Harris, in Philadelphia on the
whole
eve
last
of
day.
the election.
All she did was focus on
which is exactly what...
They had their eye on the ball.
in
I mean, you can't say, right, they didn't do that in 2016, right? She was doing Arizona, she was doing Texas, and she sort of...
The night before was in Philly.
True, but they sort of didn't do the blue wall. To their credit, I mean, she lived in Pennsylvania, but I'll tell you this, we'll see. There's probably a lot of people wondering who should be the running mate? Who should be on this Democratic ticket?
We had that discussion. Because some people will... If she loses Pennsylvania, there'll be a lot
and if that's the only state, right, that'll be the hand range.
Because Josh Shapiro is a very popular Democratic governor who was on the short list for vice president. Let's bring Savannah Sellers into this. I mean, what are you reading out of the exit polls? Are you seeing any trend lines? I know you've got your brief. You really look at young voters, and you've got your finger on the pulse there. What stands out?
Absolutely. I'll start with some numbers and then give you some anecdotal information. First, let's talk about first-time voters. This is not just young voters, but that's 57% of these first-time voters are under the age of 30. They are breaking for Trump. That is a major reversal from 2020. 53% for Trump right now, 46% for Harris. Back in 2020, 64% went for Biden. Something that I've been tracking, and I've been even watching it tonight on apps like TikTok, on apps like Instagram, when you just talk about, like, who's popular, who do people like? The Harris campaign had such a robust internal social media play. They had this team of 20-somethings. They had very little oversight. They were allowed to kind of post what they wanted, react in real time to trends, to the news cycle.
We remember Brat Summer and the whole Brat
They co-opted that immediately, exactly, which, by the way, is a compliment to say Brat now. But for the former president, there wasn't so much going on internally. It was not as robust. He had this sort of grassroots organic catch-on TikTok. I heard so many young people say to me, in a positive way also, he is a meme. His things travel far. It's objectively funny when you see this information. So many young people, therefore, on these apps were served content straight from and straight about the former president. And we are hearing so much right now. I'm hearing that in lines in Arizona. Gotti was mentioning that earlier. It's so much. It was because I heard him on a podcast. It was because of this thing I saw on TikTok. I also heard from a voter in almost every single swing state and multiple in several of them, including Pennsylvania, voters who were eligible in this age group to vote in 2020 who did not. And they came out tonight to vote for the former president.
I'd be so interested. He's winning the youth vote in these exit polls. I'd be fascinated to see what the gender breakdown is there too, because this poll with young men, and that was a concerted effort by the Trump campaign, and the Joe Rogan and the bro wave seems to be real.
I have two Gen Zers, okay? I have one who votes and one who's going to be voting next year. One in each gender, and I see it with their friends. You see it. It's real. This gap, this is not about Trump and Harris. There is a growing cultural gap, if you will, between young men and young women.
I have that number too,
really
if you want it. The gender gap on this: first-time men, Trump 62%, Harris 36%. First-time women, the gap is less here. Trump 46%, Harris 53%. Yeah, so that young men turnout is real.
Well, people who thought that young women would be voting in droves for Kamala Harris, especially because of reproductive rights. I mean, that exit poll does not suggest that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, and this goes back to what Chuck has been saying, which is that the person who ultimately winds up winning this war of the sexes is the candidate who does a better job appealing to the weaker gender for them, whoever is weaker for them. And so we've seen Trump not only clearly energize, drive up young men of various different racial backdrops, but also chip away at Vice President Harris's lead. I mean, her lead among women continues to be, based on what we're seeing so far, less than his lead with men.
The gender gap is interesting, but also, as we've alluded to here on the table, the education gap is also becoming such an interesting storyline here, as Chuck talks about kind of a realignment in this moment and where we are. That's another thing to be watching for tonight. Again, it is 11:11 Eastern time, but there's still plenty of vote to come in.
I want to go to Tom right now. Tom, I'm looking at Wisconsin. Looks like 62% of the vote in there. You're picking up some things. Share them with us.
Yeah, too close to call right now. Trump on top 50%. The difference is 39,000. Remember, the last two elections in Wisconsin, presidential elections, 20,000 votes was the difference between both candidates here. We want to go back to Madison, the capital of Wisconsin, Dane County. This is also the site of the University of Wisconsin as well. 92% of the vote in. Harris doing a little better than when we last checked in with her. But again, she's slightly underperforming Biden. She still has time to catch up. There's still 8% of the vote that's out. We actually know exactly how much of the vote is out. About 30,000 votes remain there. So maybe she picks up the margins there. We also want to talk about Milwaukee. This is the biggest population center in the entire state of Wisconsin. Right now, 54% of the vote is in. So a lot of that vote is still out. It's probably going to be a little bit later till we can call Milwaukee by itself. Biden was at 69. She's down about 2 to 3 points. Again, this would be concerning for Democrats. But look, there's still a lot of vote out in Milwaukee. Door County, if you've been following the presidential race at all, everyone's been talking about Door County in Wisconsin. It's this peninsula that shoots out into Lake Michigan. The last 6 statewide elections, presidential elections, I should say, they've picked the winner. This is a good sign for Kamala Harris. She's on top there, overperforming Biden just slightly. 95% of the vote is in. Again, Door, if we bring it out to past elections, it almost always picks the winner in the state of Wisconsin. So that's a good sign for her because it's a bellwether. I do want to check in some of these Democratic strongholds. Eau Claire, 92% in, kind of performing at the same level as Biden. That's good news for her. She wants to keep it there. We don't have any data there. What else we have? I think here in La Crosse, this is another Democratic stronghold, 92% in. Biden was at 53. She's 55, I should say. She's slightly underperforming. So listen, still a lot of vote. Let me see how much vote is still out. Still about 40% of the vote. But here's what's tough for Democrats in Wisconsin. Of the battleground states, each of those blue wall states is different. But of all the battleground states, Wisconsin is the widest. So they can drive up the margins with at least African-American voters and some Latino voters that are going to stay loyal to the Democrats in this election. What they can do, there's about 100,000 college students in the state of Wisconsin, and they usually fare better, much better with those university students. We're going to have to wait and see, as we say right there, too close to call.
All right, we got a big projection to give right here. This is the Ohio Senate race. It was a hotly contested race. Bernie Moreno, the car dealer, Republican, will pick up that seat, unseating the incumbent Sherrod Brown. This is quite a moment because, barring any unforeseen circumstances, it appears that Republicans, with that victory, will take control of the United States Senate. Again, it's not an official projection at that moment, but if things happen as expected, it would look like a two-seat gain here in the Senate. And so this is a hugely consequential vote here. Sherrod Brown, in a red state, was fighting for his political life. He's pulled that rabbit out of the hat a few times, but not here tonight.
3 times, Savannah. And he has been someone who's been very adept at straddling that line, reaching out to working class voters throughout his state. His father was a doctor, grew up in Mansfield, really had that working class appeal. And yet, this Trump-backed candidate, Bernie Moreno, a car dealer, able to topple him tonight. Again, we've been looking for ticket splitters. Didn't find one here in the state of Ohio. Again, this in line with what we've seen, which is that ticket splitters have been diminishing.
He only overperformed, Sherrod Brown only overperformed Harris by about 2 points. He needed to overperform about 4 or 5. But this is no longer about, Democrats knew they probably weren't going to hold the Senate. The question was, can they limit the Republicans to 52? Because if they can limit them to 52, then you can find 2 or 3 seats to pick up in the 2026 midterms. But if it gets to 53 or 54, right, which is very possible tonight. I mean, they've got Montana, which Republicans are favored. They've already held their 2 vulnerable seats. Nebraska's sitting out there, and it's really is a coin flip race right now. That's a unique situation. But they could get to 53 or 54, which could put the Senate out of reach for Democrats for 4 years. So at this point tonight, it's about whether Democrats can hold enough of their seats this cycle so they actually have a shot at winning back the Senate, can be competitive in 2026.
Sherrod Brown way outspent Bernie Moreno in Ohio, too. Just dumped a ton of money, pro-Democratic allies in the state of Ohio. But remember why the Senate matters, not to give a civics lesson here, right? But the Senate can act in some ways as the brakes or the accelerator for whoever ends up in the White House. They can either get a president's policies moving to a degree if the House is the same party, or not, right? And that's what this comes down to here, is how much, if it is Donald Trump in the White House and a Republican Senate, what could they do for his policies? If it is Kamala Harris in the White House and a Republican Senate, how does that interplay work when it comes to some of the issues?
I have to say, the House is much more important, though, at this point, if the Democrats are not going to win the White House, they have to have that. I mean, if you win the White House, you want your party to have that. If you're going to not have a chamber, don't have the Senate. It's the House you really worry about, because the House has subpoena power. And so if the House is of the same party, you can navigate Washington a lot easier. The Senate's not easy, but you can find bipartisan coalitions in the Senate.
And this is what the House looks like right now.
The House, at this point, whoever wins the presidency, you want your party to have, because if you don't, then it's subpoena, and then you can be tied up. Your entire agenda can get tied up.
But unlike the Senate,
correct.
We're not talking about the House tonight in almost.
No doubt. We might not be talking about the House until we go to Savannah's for Thanksgiving. And even then, it may be the Friday after.
At your own risk, I think y'all know how I cook. But, I mean, the House was not expected to track the presidential. And
correct, so because Senate, of New York and California.
Yes, exactly. And we'll be waiting New York and California. Some of these tight races, it could be weeks. It was weeks in 2020. But, I mean, the prospect is there. If are we going to have divided government? Right. As Americans have so often chosen divided government, they seem to like it.
Chosen or stumbled into it.
Yes. Well,
and remember, Democrats only need 4 seats to take back control of the House. And so they like their chances there. What's so interesting is that we're covering all of these various battleground states, Pennsylvania, and all of the blue wall states. The House is really going to be won and fought in New York, in California. So it's a very different terrain, and again, could be over a week, if not longer, before we know.
Let's turn to NBC's Garrett Haake. He's at Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida. Garrett, what's the former president doing now? And I'm wondering if there's been any reaction to what appears could be a change of power in the Senate.
Not to that specifically, Lester, but let me set the scene for you here just to get the lay of the land down here in South Florida, because some of this will matter later on tonight, perhaps. We are in West Palm Beach right now at the Convention Center, which is the giant party headquarters media center for the Trump campaign tonight. Donald Trump is across the Intercoastal Waterway at this hour at Mar-a-Lago, his home and private club, where for a portion of the night he was doing, I think, what many people sort of imagine candidates do on election night, meeting with advisors, watching the returns come in, checking the numbers. At some point this evening, according to multiple sources who are there and have laid eyes on him, he has transitioned into essentially party mode already, down in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, shaking hands, thanking supporters, participating in the celebration that has begun among his closest supporters, his family and friends, despite a race that remains uncalled. I'm also told, NBC News can also report, that he's in discussions with his aides and advisors about when he might make the trip across the bridge here to West Palm Beach to give some form of speech tonight. Now, we have been asking him about this day after day. Would he declare victory early? Would he rule out the possibility of declaring victory early? We all remember him doing that, exactly that, in 2020 when so much of the vote remained to be counted. He has refused to take an early declaration of victory off the table, and it's our understanding now that conversations are underway for him to make some kind of address here tonight, regardless of where we are on the path to 270 votes.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.